When I look back at that evening, I still feel the weight of emotions that ran through both me and my son. My name is Karen, and I'm a 48-year-old single mother living in a small town in Ohio. Life has never been a straight line for me. It's been filled with twists, turns, struggles, and unexpected moments of grace. My son, Ethan, is 21 now, but in my heart, I still see the boy who once clung to my hand at the grocery store, whose laughter filled our tiny home, and whose questions kept me awake at night. Ethan has always been my anchor, my reason to keep pushing forward, even when life threw storms my way. His father left us when he was just 5, and from that day forward, it was just the two of us against the world. I worked long shifts as a nurse, sometimes barely making it home before he fell asleep. But every morning, no matter how tired I was, I packed his lunch, kissed his forehead, and whispered, "We'll be okay." Because deep down, I believed it. But children grow, and so do the walls between us. As Ethan got older, our bond shifted. He became quieter, more distant. He'd spend hours in his room, headphones on, eyes locked on his laptop. I told myself it was normal, that he was just becoming independent, but still, there was a sting every time he chose to talk to his friends instead of me. The boy who once told me every detail of his day now answered my questions with one-word replies. The real change came when Ethan left for college 2 years ago. The silence in our house grew louder. His absence hit me harder than I ever expected. I found myself wandering into his room, sitting on his bed, inhaling the faint scent of his cologne still clinging to the pillow. Sometimes I cried, other times I just smiled, remembering all the little moments we had shared. My life felt emptier without him, but I reminded myself that this was what motherhood was about, raising a child to find his own path. Last month, Ethan came home for the summer. When he walked through the door, tall, confident, and carrying himself like a man, I almost didn't recognize him. His voice was deeper, his shoulders broader, and there was a maturity in his eyes that startled me. I hugged him, holding on a second too long, and he laughed, saying, "Mom, you're going to crush me." But I didn't care. I had missed him more than words could express. The first few days were wonderful. We cooked dinner together, played cards late into the night, and talked about his classes, his friends, his plans for the future. I could feel the old closeness returning, and it warmed my heart. But then something happened that tested the strength of our relationship. It was a Saturday evening. I had been cleaning the attic all day, sorting through boxes of old clothes, photo albums, and forgotten trinkets. One box in particular caught my attention. Inside were Ethan's childhood drawings, school projects, and letters he had written me on Mother's Day. My heart swelled as I looked through them, and tears blurred my vision. I decided I wanted to show him, to remind him of where we had been and how far we had come. So, I brought the box downstairs. My hair was messy, my clothes covered in dust, and my face streaked with tears. I wasn't thinking about how I looked. I was lost in the flood of emotions. That's when Ethan walked in. He froze in the doorway, his eyes widening at the sight of me sitting cross-legged on the floor surrounded by his old memories. "Mom," he said softly. I looked up at him, holding one of his old finger paintings. My voice trembled as I said, "Do you remember this?" He stepped closer, his expression a mix of shock and tenderness. I haven't seen that in years." Something in my face must have startled him because he crouched down beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Are you okay?" I nodded, but the truth was I wasn't. Not completely. I had been carrying so much loneliness, so much unspoken longing for the days when he was still my little boy. And seeing him as a grown man now only made the ache sharper. I just miss it," I whispered. "I miss the days when you needed me for everything. When you'd come home from school and tell me all about your day. When we used to laugh until our stomachs hurt. Time went by so fast, Ethan. Too fast." He looked at me, his own eyes misting over. For a moment, there was silence, heavy but comforting. Then he said, "Mom, I'll always need you. Maybe not in the same way I did when I was a kid, but I still do. More than you realize." My heart swelled. I hadn't expected him to say that. And in that instant, I felt permission to allow myself to be vulnerable, to let him see me not just as his mother, but as a woman with feelings, fears, and a fragile heart. So I allowed him to see me raw, emotional, imperfect. I allowed him to see that I wasn't as strong as I pretended to be. And instead of pulling away, he leaned closer. He wrapped his arms around me, holding me the way I had held him countless times before. We sat there on the floor together, flipping through the old memories. He laughed at the stick figures he had drawn, teased me about the world's ugliest macaroni necklace he made in kindergarten, and even wiped away my tears when they returned. It was one of those rare moments when time seemed to stand still, when everything else faded, and it was just the two of us again, mother and son, connected in a way that words can't fully capture. As the night wore on, we ended up talking about things we had never spoken of before. He asked me about my childhood, about my dreams before I became a mother, about the challenges I had faced raising him alone. I answered honestly, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. And he listened, truly listened, with a depth of empathy that surprised me. That night changed something between us. Ethan saw me not just as mom, but as Karen, the woman who had sacrificed, struggled, and loved him beyond measure. And I saw him not just as my little boy, but as a man capable of compassion, understanding, and strength. The days that followed were filled with a new closeness. We cooked more meals together, went on long walks, and shared stories late into the night. The walls that had once stood between us crumbled, replaced by a bridge built from honesty and love. Looking back now, I realize that moment when he saw me, truly saw me, was a turning point. I had always tried to shield him from my struggles, to be strong for him. But allowing him to see my vulnerability didn't make me weaker in his eyes. It made us stronger together. Life is full of moments like these, unexpected, raw, and deeply human. Moments that remind us that love isn't about perfection, it's about connection. And sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is allow the people we love to see us exactly as we are. And so, when Ethan saw me that evening, shocked by my tears and memories scattered around me, I didn't hide. I allowed him in. And in doing so, I found a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. Because at the end of the day, being a mother isn't just about raising a child. It's about growing with them, hand in hand, heart to heart, no matter how many years pass.